Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, Clint McLean. All right, what is going on, diehards? Welcome to a very special edition of the Die Hard MMA podcast. I've got something a little new and different for everybody. This week, we have got UFC fighter Juan the Kraken Adams, who has agreed to come on the podcast and chat with us and meet us a little bit. So first off, thank you very much for joining us. How you doing today, Juan?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. So first off, a little about the podcast. We're diehards over here. We love the sport inside and out, and we do lots of sports betting. So we break down every single fight card that comes through from a betting perspective. I like to give my opinions, watch fight tape and stuff like that for the full week ahead, and then try and pick some winners when it comes to betting on the weeks. But we basically do MMA inside and out. And what I want to do is kind of get to know you a little bit outside of the cage. I mean, I know you do all the UFC interviews, and I can Google or YouTube Juan Adams UFC interview, and they're going to ask you all about your training, your next fight, what'd you think of the last fight. We don't want to do that. We want to get to know you, man.
All right, yeah, man, I'm down. Sounds good.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Like, what do you do? What do you do outside the cage? What are some of your hobbies, things that you enjoy, stuff like that you like to do to wind down after a fight?
Well, after every fight, I take 2 weeks off, or I take a week off and eat and drink whatever I want. And the next week, I slowly start working back in the gym. Like, I go to 1 session a day, and slowly just kind of build back up in the 2, 3, and 4 days. But my downtime, right after, I usually go see whatever movie it was I was waiting to see. It's funny because the day of weigh-in, I always go see a movie after I make weight, and then the day before weigh-ins, I see a movie to just kill 2 or 3 hours, so I'm not thinking about how hungry I am.
Oh, no way.
So, yeah, so I love watching movies. It's one of my things. I love sweets. I'm a huge foodie. And I really like drinks as well. I love different flavored drinks. I like rum a lot, but then I go to the different flavored cocktails. I can't, so I always like to drink them. Everything I make turns out just tasting like juice and it's really drunk. So here's a aficionado of those. I love comics and sci-fi, fantasy, Marvel, DC, all of it,
Nice, man. All right. I mean, you're giving me a bunch to follow up on here. I want to start with the drinks, though, because my fans of the show know my drink of choice is Fireball. And I started using the hashtag Fireball by KO. I did this little Photoshop after, a little messed up, but kind of funny. I like to do shots of fighters like after they got knocked out, and I'll put little empty shot glasses next to them with the Fireball thing on it. I'm trying to get sponsored. What's your go-to drink of choice, man?
Kraken is my go-to rum. That's actually how I got the nickname.
Oh, dude, I was gonna ask you that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. Okay, all right. That was one of my next questions coming up, is I was going to ask how you got the nickname. Everyone knows, there's always a story behind the nickname. Somebody gives it to you, somebody in the gym calls you something, and it just kind of sticks. So I was really curious how the Kraken came about.
Yeah, my big brother. Well, I call him my big brother, but he's the guy. I mean, he was kind of like a mentor, life coach, guide, ever since I met him in college. And, he was training to fight. That's how I met him. We met through the gym, and then I just kind of, he was getting ready for a fight at the time, and I was talking about fighting. I wasn't even really training. I would show up to sparring every other week or something like that, because I was the wrestling coach at the gym. But he was gonna do a fight, and he went by. He called himself Cthulhu for that fight. Well, if I'm going to be Cthulhu, you should be the Kraken. And I was like, why? Because I knew the mythology behind it and everything, but I didn't really think that it was a big thing for me at the time. I was like, well, you're big, and, at the time, I was unbeatable. So everyone, they all thought I was unbeatable. And it just fit and goes. Then you drink the rum, so it's perfect.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad you got the rum thing to back it up, piggybacking off of somebody else's nickname. That wouldn't have been the best story, but the rum that sells it. It all adds up after you add the drink in there.
Yeah, so yeah, and I always drank. I mean, that rum got me through college. So
There you go. Nice, man. And so you said you like Marvel and comic books. I'm a complete nerd myself, actually. I gotta ask, what's the favorite Marvel movie?
oh man, I really like. It's usually whichever the latest one is, but Thor Ragnarok is kind of my favorite. I love the Thor franchise. I really like what they did, the Marvel adaptation of it, because he was kind of bland in the comics, but they really brought him to life. He's my favorite character in the MCU.
No way, dude. Thor Ragnarok is my number one. I think it's the perfect blend of action and comedy. They break every suspenseful moment up with a good, solid laugh. That's my favorite movie in the whole series. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. All right. So, I mean, I guess we'll just kind of stick with the nerd stuff for a minute. You said you were into some other things. I mean, I saw on Twitter that you like anime. What are some of the other, nerdy things that you're into, or what's your favorite anime, stuff like that?
Right now, my favorite anime, like, it's hard for me to do that kind of stuff because I have a lot of recency bias when it comes to that.
That's fair.
So the most recent one I watched is Black Clover, and it's kind of one of my top 5 right now. But overall, the ones I always think to, Dragon Ball Z was kind of the one that got me started.
Classic.
Dragon Ball Z and Yu Yu Hakusho got me started in the anime, and then the Boondocks kind of had an anime style animation.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked that one. Then I kind of got away from it, and then it was Naruto. Naruto was a really big one for me. So after that, it was Naruto and One Piece were the next 2 animes that I really followed. Then I'm really behind on both of them now. But then I picked it up with, in college, I went to Soul Eater. Soul Eater was the first. Yeah, I really liked Soul Eater. And then that led me into Attack on Titan and One Punch Man.
All right.
Yeah, and then after that, now I've been watching That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Boruto is really good. Black Clover, like I already said, and My Hero Academia.
There you go.
Yeah, and I hit up Roxanne Modafari because she likes anime a lot too, and a lot of her followers do.
Yeah.
So I hit her up, and she recommended a couple good ones, so I'm going to go back and watch some of those also.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. So, first off, we've got a soft spot for Roxanne Modafiri on the DieHardMMA podcast. She is one of our favorite bets to make. I don't know how much you know about sports betting or gambling. Do you know anything about it? Have you ever touched it or gotten into it?
I've never gotten into it, but I try to be knowledgeable about a lot of stuff because I do listen to a lot of sports radio and things like that. So that's one of the other things I do in my free time. I'm in my car a lot, so rather than listening to music, I'm always listening to our ESPN affiliate down here.
Okay.
And listen to that. Then pretty much 6 hours a day.
Well, the next time you chat with Roxanne, you'll have to put in a good word for me because I'd love to have her on the podcast, man. She's our secret weapon over here. She was a plus 300 underdog. So, if you don't know so much about the betting lines, basically it's 3-1. Like if you're betting $100 on Roxanne to win at plus 300, you get your 100 back and then you win 300 on top of it. And we've hit her a couple different times on the show because she's just so underrated as a fighter. We love her to death, and being a nerd myself, I love her style. I love that she's into anime and Dragon Ball Z and all that stuff. She is awesome, and that's so cool that you reached out to her and you guys were able to connect on that kind of stuff. I feel like DBZ is like the OG anime for every fighter. Like I feel like all the people that are like my age and just slightly younger. I'm turning 32 this year, so I'm not that much older than you, but like anybody in the ballpark of my age group and under grew up with anime being something that's almost worldwide. Like when I was coming up, only the nerds watched anime, only the geeks watched anime. It was not a cool thing to do. But the landscape has totally shifted. Everybody's into it. Everybody's cool with it now. And I love it that fighters are starting to come out and like be into that kind of stuff now because it's kind of okay and they're not going to get made fun of anymore. And everybody loves Dragon Ball Z. Like all the fighters are like, that was the one that started it, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not really. I mean, clearly, I don't care that much what other people think. 'Cause I've walked out on national TV in a romper, so
For sure.
but yeah, so that was she's a really cool lady though. I know, like, I'm never really an underdog on any of my bets. I feel kind of bad.
That's honestly, man, nothing wrong with it. We had you beating Greg Hardy. I know that one didn't go your way, but I gave you out as a pick on the podcast. I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm a big believer in your skill set. I think I know the last two fights haven't gone your way, but I honestly don't. I hope you're not down or anything on yourself because you've got a bright future, man, for sure.
Yeah, it's so weird because that one in Canada, pretty much everyone other than the judges and like 20% or 20 to 40% of the MMA media, everyone else thought I won that fight. So that one sucked. The Hardy fight, like, it was just weird because I've never had a fight stop. I've been in that position in some of my amateur fights, and it just never stopped in that position. And there's no damage being done. I'm just kind of chilling right there. And it was so weird, but it happens, and I can't change it. I'm pissed about it, but it's like it's not even worth disputing, honestly.
Yeah, man, I kind of feel you on that one, and honestly, I'm all team Adams with you on both of those. I absolutely had you winning the Buller fight, and just so you know, I don't bullshit. I'm not kissing your ass just because you came on my podcast. I legitimately think that you won that fight. I mean, you massively outlanded the guy, and a couple of takedowns shouldn't have made that big of a difference. And that one was in Canada, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, Canada is known for brutal robberies. Like, that's something I say on my podcast every single time the UFC goes to Canada. The judges are so hometown biased. Home field advantage in Canada is a real thing. And honestly, man, I'm with you on the Hardy thing. I'm bummed that one didn't go your way also. Just because I could see he was slowing down. And you go back to like when Brock Lesnar fought Shane Carwin, the ref let it go because Brock wasn't taking any damage, and he let Carwin punch himself out and then came back and wrecked him. And I thought that's what was going to happen here. Like, I could see him slowing down. I could see the pop was coming off of the punches. You didn't seem like you were rocked. I thought he was going to punch himself out and you were going to stand up and light him up. So I was real bummed when the ref stepped in and stopped it. So I feel you on that one. That was a bit of a rough ending on that one.
Yeah, that one definitely sucked. But, life goes on, and I've got one more fight on my contract, so my goal is to just get re-signed at this point.
There you go. Well, I mean, while we're on the subject, do you have anybody in mind or like a time frame in mind where you're looking to get back in the cage, or has there been any talks for opponents or anything like that?
Yeah, so we've actually, I've talked about getting back in the cage. I want to get in around probably. I'd like to fight in November. We're okay with taking up to 6 months off at this point. Obviously,
okay.
I'm not really in a position to make a whole lot of demands right now, so it's one of those things where I just kind of got to take what they give me, and kind of go with it. But
gotcha.
So we're just gonna see whatever opens up and go from there. And we don't have an ideal opponent. Obviously, if I had won, I'd have more say, who I fight. But
sure.
if we we had won, I wanted to fight a Tai Tuivasa or a Blagnov, one of those two guys.
Gotcha.
Next opponent, but they're both lined up now. So unless they both lose, I don't see myself getting either fights. But that's who we would want, someone like that. Realistically, they'll probably stick me with a Contender Series guy. It really depends because the heavyweight division is so strange. So they're either going to put me against someone else they're trying to build up, or someone that's already established coming off of a loss.
Mm-hmm. That's probably kind of an accurate assessment of what's going on here. And honestly, man, from a betting perspective, the last two spots being kind of weird the way they are, personally, I grade you winning the Buller fight. So even though that shows as a loss on your record, as far as like a betting assessment goes, I don't think you lost that fight. And then the Greg Hardy one, it was a weird fight, and it was only 45 seconds long. I would kind of just draw a scratch through that one. The bookies are going to give us a damn good price on you in your next fight, no matter who you fight, man. Like they're going to look at everything that happened, and they're going to see those back-to-backs, and they're going to give you're probably going to be a decent-sized underdog in your next fight, and I'm looking forward to that because I guarantee you we'll be on you again for your next fight when it comes to my podcast picks.
Awesome. Can't wait, man.
Yeah, man. So you mentioned the romper. I got to go back on this, man. I loved the romper. How did that happen? Like, what got into you to wear the romper out for that one?
So I've worn it before, and when I was still fighting for LFA, I wore it for my third fight on contract with them, and it got a really good reception. I actually don't mind wearing it. Like I've worn it before, and people have people always give me like funny looks, but it started because like I said, I was in this group chat with some of my buddies, and they were all just talking about like, oh, if I saw a guy wearing that, I'd beat his ass, blah blah blah. I'm just like, dude, that's such a toxic thing to say, and you can't just make like blind assumptions about people based off of what they're wearing. Now, like, if a dude's wearing a dress and pumps and whatever, like, okay, it's safe to assume that person wants to identify as a woman. Cool, whatever. But other than that, if someone's just wearing a romper and is designed for men, like, don't worry about it. People always give me crap because of the drinks I drink when I go out. Like, I always drink the same things, like a Cosmo and Old Fashioned, and then Kraken and rum. And but if they have like something that looks good, like I love frozen margaritas, like all the flavored ones, like strawberry.
There you go.
And all that. So people, I always get like strange looks from that, and people think it's funny. So I find it hilarious. I love the romper. So when I wore it out there, when I went up to Canada, I was gonna wear it, but it was kind of cold, so I wore a onesie instead. So I'm always wearing like stuff like that. I'm a pretty fashion forward guy. I like my stuff to accessorize nicely or whatever. So, and all the stuff the UFC gives us is blue, red, black, gray, tan. Like it's not a whole lot of diversity in that. Can't really do a whole lot of fun stuff with it. So
I like you doing the fun stuff, man. I think that's a great personality thing. You know what I mean? Like outside the cage, you stand out when you do stuff like that. I freaking love it.
Yeah. So that's it. That's how I do my thing.
Is there any chance of a Juan Adams branded romper going out on sale?
If somebody makes one, I'd love to do it. I actually recently just lost a sponsor. So I'm looking for anything like that, like marketing or even brand ambassador stuff. I just reached out to Dude Wipes actually. So.
Oh, good luck with that.
Well, it's funny because like I actually do a whole segment on my Instagram story. It's called Kagakon Kraken, and I just talk to people while I'm on the toilet. Like Like it's the funniest thing. I really just sit there on the toilet and it's my musings and what I think about, and then I grade the poop at the end of it. and people love it. I did this whole segment on why you have to do dry, wet, dry. You can't just do one or the other.
Dude, that's fantastic. You know what? I follow you, man, and I follow you on Twitter. Twitter's my go-to. I've got to follow you on Instagram. That sounds hilarious. I freaking love it, and I'm sure you're gonna get some new followers after we do this because that's great. Now I know you're super good on social media. You're a great follow on social media. I don't want to give anybody a platform, so like nothing negative, but like what's the best like troll or hater comment that you can remember that just made you like bust up? Not something that stung, not something bad, but like, you know what I mean? Like when people come at you and you can just kind of roll your eyes, almost like a Colby Covington or a Tito Ortiz where they like mess the lineup and it lands wrong. Like, do you have any good stories or interactions of people that you just trashed on Instagram?
One guy, like, not really, because I don't really get a whole lot of that hate. I block them usually.
Okay. That is fair enough, man. I'm a firm believer in the block button. I don't do Instagram drama. There's enough negativity in life. You don't need people coming after you. So I totally get and respect that. I don't see why more pros don't do that.
I'm always so quick, and like I don't even remember when I come back at people because they usually just shut up and leave me alone afterwards. I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember it. I feel bad now. But no, I do have some pretty good ownings of people on social media for sure.
That's awesome, man. And sorry, but I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. I know I'm kind of rapid firing random shit at you right now.
No problem, man. No problem.
Awesome, man. So, I mean, while we're on like the sports betting and gambling subject, do you I mean, I know we weren't on that, but never mind. I'm going to make a real bad harsh transition here. Do you have like who's your favorite sports team, man? Who do you follow?
So, I'm from Houston, and ever since we got Deshaun Watson, I've become a very big fan, and I do follow Houston sports. So, the Texans. Before that, I was an Eagles fan. Before Houston had a team, that was when I was very, very young. So that was one of them. But other than that, the Astros, of course, they're a really good team.
There you go.
But I'm just a huge fan of sports in general. So like I always go with the hometown guys, but I can always appreciate good game. So the NBA Finals this year, like I love NBA basketball. I also love college basketball. So the college basketball teams I follow are Kentucky. I always follow them, and obviously my college team, Virginia Military Institute's basketball team. I follow them a lot. But so college basketball, I watch. Like anytime it's on, I usually watch it. Not really vested in it, but I like Kentucky usually because they just have a bunch of like crazy athletic guys on their team.
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm not the biggest fan of basketball, but in my opinion, college is usually better than NBA just because, I mean, like you said, the talent, the athleticism, and they're all hungry, you know what I mean? In the NBA, every once in a while, you get them taking nights off and stuff like that, and I don't feel like you get that as much in the college games.
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
Awesome, man. So you said that you're like a big sports fan, stuff like that. Were you a fan of MMA before you got into it, or did you just kind of get sucked into it and start training because someone said, "Hey, you're big. Why don't you come hit some stuff?" What happened there?
Yeah, I was actually a fan of it before I got into it. But it was like I really watched his Anderson Silva and Brock Lesnar and things like that. But I wasn't a huge fan. When I got back, actually when I graduated, it was really funny because the Colts had called my college coach. And it was in college, so I was doing a little bit of jiu-jitsu tournaments just because they needed me for the points. So I was a white belt, so I was just wrecking everyone, just on points. And it was so funny because we get there and, you know, he's like, Juan, the Colts called me and their coach says they have like a special projects division. Would you be interested in that? So I called that that guy. He's like a scout or something. And so I started doing all the workouts. I came back home and that's what I was going to do. I was going to really try and get into the NFL. And, you know, the other year my mom got diagnosed with cancer. So I was like, oh, it's perfect. I can come home, train, and, you know, still take care of everything. And so my mom died like 2 or 3 weeks after I got back, or 3 or 4 weeks after I got back.
Oh man.
So I was still doing this for like 6 months. I was weighing like 325 right at this point, so I was just being fat and getting really like just drunk all the time. And so then that fell through, and I was already coaching wrestling and stuff. And I wanted to lose weight, so I'm like, you know, if I commit to an amateur fight, I'll just do one amateur fight, but it'll get me down to, you know, probably 280, 290, and then I can just maintain that rather than being 330. And, you know, I did the amateur fight, and it was fun. Then I got fat again, like 305, 310. So I'm like, okay, let's do another one. And then after that, they're like, oh, do you want to do and at that point, I'm like, man, this is easy. I could probably be pretty good at this. And so at that point, after my second amateur fight, you know, that's when I got a striking coach and started actually, you know, going and training striking and wrestling and taking it more seriously. And yeah, then after that, it was I said they offered me an amateur title, and I was like, you know, I was starting to get a little bit of steam, like locally, people knew who I was, and, you know, I liked that feeling. And then I ended up it was just funny, like it was crazy how everything worked out, but I liked the feeling, and I was doing all that, and I said, you know what, let's go pro. And that's right around the time my manager reached out to me, and it was kind of just everything lined up, and I figured, why not? Let's go for it. And never looked back since.
Dude, that is a really cool story. I mean, first and foremost, I gotta say, you know, I'm really sorry to hear about your mom. That's terrible. I mean, but the rest of the story was great. I'm glad to hear about the rest of that. That's really kind of hilarious that you used it for weight loss and lined up a second fight just so you could get in shape and cut weight down again. That's really awesome.
Yeah, man, it was crazy.
So, all right, now I gotta ask, speaking of crazy, do you have any crazy stories? Like, did you have any like weird situations with like, I don't know, anything wild that happened in your early days MMA or anything like that you'd be willing to share? I mean, obviously, you know, I know sometimes there's stuff that happens behind the scenes that you can't or don't want to share.
You know, a lot of it was just like weird stuff. You know, I had a lot of really weird people reach out to me under the guise of, you know, saying, oh, yeah, I want to sponsor you, stuff like that. And that's never what it was.
They're like catfish sponsors.
Yeah, and they always like would want me to do weird stuff, and I just kind of wasn't really about all that.
Oh man, that's awful. I mean,
but, yeah, you know, everything kind of ended up working out for the better. But no, nothing super bad like that. It was just I had the weird catfish sponsors. I had you know, there was a couple times at after parties where I got pretty wild. Luckily, like, it was one of those times where my apartment at the time was down the street. Like, it was like literally 2 turns from the club I worked at. So I would go get on the highway, and the highway had a straight feeder from the club. So I would get on the feeder road, just drive straight, take one exit, and then turn left, and then I was at my apartment. So, but there's a gas station right by there, and I was wasted. It was after my first amateur fight, and this is the first time I'd gone like that long without drinking. So I had like 4 or 5 drinks in, and I'm just like, oh God, I gotta stop drinking. I'm wasted. And so I get home. I go to this gas station, and I'm reaching for the honey buns and stuff, and I just ate it so bad, and like the whole shelf crashed down on me.
Oh no.
Or in this pile of like honey buns and pastries and stuff, and I look over. And I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, maybe you didn't see me, so I'm just gonna sneak out and go home. And so that was the worst one. But no, that's about the only like really bad story I have. Like backstage, you always run into kind of strange stuff, but nothing really sticks out to me. I did get propositioned at one of my fights by like these 3 guys. It was a really weird situation, and like, but I'm sitting there, and like, it started off like a normal conversation, and it keeps going, and this is the one I was wearing the romper at, and these guys, they're like, this one guy, he just like kept touching my shoulder, and he goes, so you get laid a lot in that thing? And I just go, I'm celibate, bro. Like ran away. It was so awkward.
Oh, bold move, man. Going for the UFC fighter. Holy shit.
Yeah, it was not my finest or most fun moment for sure.
That's hilarious. I got to tell you though, the gas station story, that's classic. That is great. And I think you handled the proposition pretty well. I'm celibate is a pretty good comeback to get out of there.
Oh yeah, man, I definitely was not feeling that at all.
That is so funny. Oh, dude. All right. Well, man, you know what? I want to thank you so much for just coming on the podcast. This was a good time. I had an awesome time chatting with you. I've got one last question for you real quick. Based off of your Instagram, I got to know, man, NSYNC or Backstreet Boys if you got to pick one.
It's so weird because it depends on the vibe. You know, at a party, I'm definitely going NSYNC, but if I'm vibing out at home, I'm going Backstreet Boys.
That's fair. All right, that is fair. I grew up in the era of the boy bands, so I appreciate a good Backstreet Boys song every now and again. Actually, I'm going to admit this on the podcast for all my fans so I can be a little embarrassed as well. My wife and her best friend and I actually took a trip to Vegas when the Backstreet Boys had their deal going in Vegas. We took a whole trip dedicated to watching them in concert. And no, this was not when I was trying to like impress my wife dating her or anything like that. This was like a year and a half ago. I volunteered to come along and was in the crowd with my wife and her best friend at a Backstreet Boys concert in Vegas. So I'm all team Backstreet there with you.
There you go, man. They're a great band. There's no shame in it.
Absolutely. Dude, I want to give you the floor for just a minute. I mean, if there's anything you want to promote or anything you want to like shout out or say, now's a good chance. Go right ahead. Let them have it.
I just want to promote, my 2 sponsors, FlemingAttorneys.com, the Houston, Texas premier personal injury attorney, and Hemp Lab Houston, for all your CBD needs. If you're in the Houston area, Heights area, go check them out. And, I just want to thank everyone, all the fans, anyone that's listening that, continues to support me for all the uplifting messages you guys have sent, words of encouragement, too long. Like, it's weird going from never losing in a sport to losing 2 in a row. It's like, it really shakes things up and kind of makes you reevaluate things. But I just want to thank you all for all the support and, still being there for me and still believing in me. Just getting ready. I'm back in the gym now, working back up to those 3 and 4 days, and I'm only going to come back stronger.
Absolutely, man. Well, you're more than welcome. We definitely support you here on the show. We'll be looking forward to the next time that you're in the cage. Thank you again very much for coming on the podcast. And, there you go, diehards. We got Juan Adams, so thank you again, and I guess we'll have to follow up with you sometime soon, man. Can't wait to see you back in the cage.
For sure, man. Thank you.
Man, that was freaking cool of Juan Adams to come on the show and give us a little bit of his time so we could kind of get to know him on, kind of a one-on-one level. That's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and we finally got it done. So huge, huge shout out and thank you to Juan the Kraken Adams. Can't wait to see him in his next fight. We'll be looking forward to it. We'll especially be looking forward to that plus money line that I damn sure guarantee that we're going to get. Thank you, diehards, as always, for the love and support. Do me a favor, get over to Juan Adams' Twitter, get over to Juan Adams' Instagram, give the man a follow. He's very entertaining. He's positive, just like we are. So give the man some support, give the man some love. We'll keep supporting him all the way through, and we'll look forward to the next one. Give us some love in the comments section. Give us a thumbs up. Like the comment, subscribe. That helps us out on YouTube. That'll help us out on all of our rankings, get some more ears on the podcast and that kind of thing. Let me know if this is something you all like. I had a lot of fun chatting with Juan Adams, and honestly, I would love to do this kind of thing more, do some more fighter interviews and stuff like that. It was an absolute blast. So if you enjoyed it as much as I did, let me know so we can do this more often, and we'll keep on rolling. Thanks a lot, diehards.